Welcome to Petersen's Bowhunting Radio, the official podcast of hardcore bowhunters. From the latest archery equipment and expert shooting advice to proven bowhunting tactics and the sport's biggest personalities, we've got you covered. Now, here's your host, Editor Christian Berg.
All right, welcome back to Petersen's Bowhunting Radio. We are the voice of bowhunting, and as always, we're thrilled that you've taken some time to be with us today. We've got a great opportunity to talk with two of the top young shooters in the archery game today. And as you can see, I've got Mr. Tate Morgan and Ms. Paige Pearce on the show today. Not only two of the top shooters, but a archery couple, if you will. So, guys, welcome so much. Thanks for being with me on Petersen's Bowhunting Radio.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have had a pretty good year, I would say, all things considered, because, of course, anyone who follows archery knows that, like everything else in the world, your lives have really been impacted by this whole coronavirus deal, and there really hasn't been any competition for quite some time. But the last major competition was the Vegas shoot, and Paige, congratulations to you. You came out with a victory there, so that is awesome.
Thank you. I've been trying to win that shoot for a long time, so that definitely felt like a monkey off my back. And there was actually another Indoor World Finals was there at the same time. And so I actually won that on Saturday too. So it was like pretty much the best weekend of my archery career to date. It was pretty cool.
And probably the most lucrative too.
Yeah, for sure.
How much do you win? They say that is the richest shoot in archery, but not being super on top of the target side of the sport. What kind of money are we talking about there?
So it's very different for the men and women. Let me just start off by saying that.
Which is wrong, by the way, right? Which is wrong.
I mean, I get it. But I did a whole podcast on that topic alone before. But, so like I won both of those tournaments and probably made about 50 grand for the weekend. But if the guys win it, if they win Vegas alone, the shoot pays
50 just alone for the
50 just from the shoot for the one part, and that's not counting sponsors or anything else. Or
so you could be, depending on your companies, you could be anywhere from 85 to 110
for just Vegas.
For just Vegas.
And then obviously the Worlds would increase that as well. So or World Indoor Finals. So it's drastically different for the men and women, but I mean for the women it's still it's still one of the best weekends we can.
Regardless.
Well, I've never made $50,000 in a weekend, and I don't think I ever will. So I'm going to just say that you can put me amongst the many people that are jealous of you for that accomplishment for a lot of reasons, and it is just awesome. And Tate, you did. I know you didn't win the tournament, but you did really well out in Vegas too. If I recall, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you have like a great qualifying round and advance there, or am I confused?
Yeah, I shot good. I shot the highest X count, tied with a couple other guys for the highest X count for the weekend, but I ended up missing 1 point on Saturday, so fell short of the shoot off by 1 point. But still, I shot really, really good still. It's just that one little bobble cost me the opportunity.
Well, that's part of the game for you guys. I mean, people who are more, have a bow hunter's mindset don't realize that in what you guys do, 1-9 is like death. Where for most of us, like I went to a 3D shoot with my 14-year-old son last weekend, and I was just telling him about how I kind of approach it as a bow hunter, so it's like I don't even worry about the 14s, and I'm like I just want to shoot 12s, and like if I get a 10, it's okay, and then if you really screw up and get an 8, you still know you killed the animal, which is completely different than what you guys are doing, where it's like no, every single arrow has to be in a 50-cent piece essentially.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. It's getting harder every year too as the equipment improves and the archers improve. Like the level of competition is just climbing, I think, at an all-time high. So that makes it tough.
It definitely does. You got guys shooting scores now that were unthinkable 5 years ago.
And women especially too.
Yeah, because women are going.
The women have went crazy. So yeah, it's tough.
Now I know obviously Vegas is a spot tournament. Then there's 3D. Do you guys specialize in one or the other, or do you both shoot both of those?
Pretty mainly just the target stuff. I mean, I've shot ASA. I shot one ASA a couple years ago and really enjoyed it. It's just the schedules have always conflicted with our target schedules. So it's like I've never really shot a bunch of 3Ds, and I know I'm pretty good at the spot stuff, so I kind of always just stuck to the spot stuff. But this year we have kind of a free lane to go shoot all the ASAs because they don't overlap anything because there's nothing to overlap.
Yeah, so you can shoot primarily like indoor, which is target. FIDA, the USA Archery, World Archery stuff is all target. The NFA events, they're all target other than Reading, but Reading has spots on the targets, so that counts. I shot a whole year of ASA quite a few years ago now, and it was a ton of fun, but our schedule with target is so insane that there's not time for us to be home and effectively judge the targets. That's really what it comes down to at those events, at least if you're shooting the unknown division anyway. And so I had the targets, but you're never there to see them. It doesn't do you much good. So, we kind of, unfortunately, our schedules are so crazy, it does make it really hard to kind of branch over to that.
Yeah, it's absolutely. I was telling Tate when back in the winter when I met up with you at the Lancaster Archery Classic, and I was talking to you and Wyam Hauser. I had a brain cramp there. And I was telling you guys, everything that you guys are doing now, I'm like, it's a young man's game or a young woman's game, because as you get a little bit older, life just seems to get more complicated. And man, to be on the road as much as you guys are, it gets harder. Not that there aren't some other older folks doing it, but it definitely gets more challenging. How long are you guys on the road every year? I mean, not 2020. I realize this has been like a permanent vacation here this year.
Yeah.
Probably would say pretty close to like 10, 11 months normally.
11 for sure.
Normally I normally try to cut back a little bit right towards hunting season and then try to hunt all hunting season. But
I don't get to. I'm usually still shooting through September, and the month we normally get off is October. And other than that, we're pretty much traveling nonstop.
Normally my September is consumed by the elk woods.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you were actually on our cover of our spring issue this year, April, May, with a really nice elk that you shot there in Montana, not too far from your home last year, which was a tremendous bull. Congratulations again on that. And obviously, being from Montana, you come at this whole target shooting thing sort of from a bow hunting background, right?
Yeah, my dad hunted. That's kind of how he got into archery back when he was young, and then just kind of progressed and just step by step got more into the target things, and then got me into shooting. And I didn't care about shooting anything besides rabbits and stuffed animals when I was a little kid. I didn't want to shoot paper at all. And then it just kind of progressed a little bit, and then started taking off once I realized that I could actually shoot to the level that I'm shooting at. So I prefer hunting. So,
well, I won't disagree with you there. But then again, I don't think I could probably shoot as well as you could shoot. But what was it that kind of lit the fire for you in competition? You said you realized, that you could shoot to a high level. Was there a particular competition or moment where you kind of saw that there was some possibility there for you?
I shot for a number of years, and then I ended up quitting archery for probably 7 or 8 years. I was battling target panic horribly and just made archery not fun anymore. And I was actually just sitting there looking at the Hoyt catalog when they were launching their new bows in 2015, and I was like, "Oh, that bow looks cool. I want to get back into this." And I bought a bow, and I had all intentions of just committing to it. And I told myself I wasn't going to suck anymore, and I wasn't going to have these issues, and I was just going to fix them. And then we went to the first tournament, and I shot a 300 the first day, and it was the first time I ever shot a 300 in a competition. And I'm like, wow, it's really not that hard. Like everything kind of all clicked at once for me. I was like, man, this is a lot more fun than I remember. Like, I want to pursue this.
You didn't have any more target panic? It just cured itself?
I mean, it comes and goes. I don't believe that once you have it, you ever fully get rid of it. You'll kind of fight it here and there, intermittently, but it's just taking the steps in the like doing a process to kind of learn how to control it and combat it as best you can.
Like having a disease with flare-ups. You just got to get through the flare-ups, and then you can kind of survive.
Yeah.
You just don't want it to flare up at the wrong time.
Yeah, that's for sure. And what about you, Paige? Now, you're from California, and I think that you guys are out there at your place right now. What's your background? Did you come from a hunting family, or did you find archery from another direction?
Both. So my parents hunted a ton, and they shot target stuff. So kind of much like him, his parents were involved in both, so were mine. We have all like the Redding style 3D targets with the orange dots here, and shoots almost every weekend when there's no coronavirus. So I grew up shooting all of that. I actually started at the age of 2. My parents were going, so they would just drag me around in the stroller. I'd shoot, throw me back in, and keep going. So I've shot nonstop since then. I never quit. I never let off the gas. I never thought I'd end up where I am now. I had no intentions of shooting professionally. You know, it all just kind of fell into place. Like you said, I won one shoot and broke some records, and they said, hey, go to this tournament. And I went there and won and broke some records, and it was like, it all just kind of compiled. And within 2 years' time, I went from just being some like small town, you know, local archer to kind of crushing it on the national scene. And it was like, whoa, how did this happen? So I'm thankful that it happened. Obviously, I love what I do, but I didn't plan on that when I was younger.
Now, you guys are both relatively young, at least to me. I'm not young anymore. Now, how old are both you guys?
I'm 26, 25.
You're 26.
26.
I'm 25.
Okay.
He's 20.
And so, Paige, you said just within a couple of years it went. So, how old were you when you started to really, you know, kind of, I guess, make the competitive shooting more full time?
So, this is pretty crazy. My life has not been like a normal person's life. So I made the U.S. team, like their world team or the national team, both actually in the same year when I was 13. And that was the first time that I was like, all right, this is the real deal. And then I did that for 2 years, and then decided with NFAA that I wanted to be a pro. And at the time, they wouldn't let you become a pro if you were under 18 years old. No one had ever tried. And I was like, well, I want to be a pro. And they're like, well, you can't. And I was like, what if my parent signs for me? And they were like, well, I guess. So I ended up becoming an NFA pro at 15, and I was the youngest person to ever do that. At the time, that wasn't a thing. And pretty much between, 13 and 15, those 2 years, it kind of just turned around, and then I've been traveling pretty crazy ever since then. So I didn't go to high school like normal. I went for 2 years and then just left, went to college, because college was easier in a way. It wasn't so much busy work, and in California, college counts as high school, so I just knocked out 3 years in one, junior, senior, and freshman year of college. And then, everyone else was still in high school, and I was on my second year of college and traveling around and doing all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, a lot of people ask me, like, do you regret what happened, or do you, miss, like, you didn't do prom, or you didn't do this, and it's like, no. Like, I truly loved what I was doing, like, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Wow, so you've been doing this pretty much full time for more than half of your life.
Yeah, like, since I was a kid. It's weird because I'm not young, but like you said, I'm young, like however you want to look at that. But we'll be standing down on the women's line, and there's like one other woman there that's been doing it longer than me, like when we're standing at FIDAs and stuff. And so it's weird because as young as I am, I've been around long enough to see waves of new shooters come in and see people fall out. And then the next wave come in and then see people fall out. And so, yeah, it's very strange to say I'm one of like the veteran shooters, but I'm 25. Like it's a weird thing to kind of wrap your head around.
So now here's a loaded question. I don't even know if you want to answer this for yourself or you let Tate answer it, but You know, I don't know if you guys watched any of this during the pandemic, but did you watch The Last Dance, that documentary series that they put together about Michael Jordan and the Bulls when they had all those great teams? It was really popular. Here's a recommendation. If you guys are jonesing for a show, just go to the ESPN app on your TV and play those. But anyway, you guys all know Michael Jordan. And so, you know, my kids watched a little bit of that with me, and I was telling my kids, I have 2 boys, they're 14 and 16, and I was like, you know, sometimes, like I've told you guys with your sports over the years, you know, sometimes there's somebody who's out there who's just that much better than everybody else. And so he or she just walks out onto the field and they do what they do, and you can't stop that. And then sometimes you have somebody who's a marginal player, but they love the game so much and they work so hard that they make themselves into somebody. And then every once in a while, like once in a generation, you get a Michael Jordan, right? He's better than everybody else, and he works harder than everybody else, and he does like this, and it becomes like this unstoppable force that just cannot be denied no matter what anybody does. So I'll ask this to you, Paige, you know, because you talked about, you know, you've been doing this for 15 years basically, and you've seen a lot of people come and go, and yet here you are, still at 25, a young woman, yet all this experience and all these accomplishments under your belt, and you haven't burned out. So what are you? You know, are you that freak prodigy of archery who's that much better than everyone else? Or are you just this girl who loves archery so much that, you know, or are you the Michael Jordan of archery?
Can't say I'm the Michael Jordan. I'm definitely that kind of person that it just comes naturally to. Like, we all kind of joke that I just kind of had it. I didn't really practice very much growing up, like, ever. And honestly, I haven't really practiced much until the last year or two. Honestly, I kind of just was good. And I would go out and it would be good enough. Now, the difference is in the last few years, I would say the scores, let's say like 2-3 years ago, the scores that I was shooting at certain events, let's just say, I had a huge lead on the girls. And every year I would go out and shoot about the same score, and they would get a little closer, and get a little closer, and get a little closer, to where now everyone is good. And so now I actually need to work at it. Like, I need to practice. I need to put more time in. Obviously, us dating is kind of a blessing in that way, because it gives me someone to practice with, and we can push each other, and that's really helpful. But most of my life, I was just the person that walked out there, loved what I did. I was just kind of a natural, and it just kind of worked for me. So yeah, I'm actually just now hitting that crossroads where it's like, if I want to be the Michael Jordan, then I got to bring that, you know, hard work side into it, because while I'll still win some, but the whole idea in archery's not like other sports. You can't just go win the Masters and be, you know, great for life. It doesn't work like that. Like, I just won Vegas, and by next year everyone will forget. So you have to be consistent in our sport, and that's something that makes it very tough, because it's very challenging. But unless you're someone that's always on the podium or on the top of the podium, you don't matter. Like, you're not relevant, and that's what's tough. So it used to be easier to do that. Now it's not. So I need to start putting in the hard work to where I can stay there more consistently, because obviously that's my goal. Like, we're both super competitive. I think most of us that do this are. So, you know, it's been good so far. I just want to make sure that I don't fall behind, if that would ever happen.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, that makes perfect sense. Actually, you answered what was going to be my next question, which was, you know, when did it start to get hard for you? And you're basically just told me it's really been only the last couple of years, because, you know, the rest of the field is creeping up, you know, to that level where you've been. And so now you have to see if you can find that additional gear, you know?
Now, there are different kinds of tournaments. So, like, for example, I never shot indoor for years. I live in California. It's hot, it's sunny. I could shoot outside. And so 3 years ago, I decided, like, you know what? One of the other archers on the U.S. team actually told me, like, you're not good at indoor. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm not bad. Like, I never shoot it. I roll in, shoot 2 a year, and, you know, do decent. He's like, well, you're nowhere near the best in the world at it. And I was like, what a jerk. But then I thought about it, and I'm like, well, he's not wrong, and I really didn't like that. And so I booked a trip out to Africa. That was where our next tournament was, like 2 weeks later for indoor. And then in the next 3 years, I've like fully committed myself to indoor. And so 2 or 3 years into it, win the 2 biggest ones in the same weekend, I'm like, yes, like I finally made it on that scene. But there's another woman who shoots, her name's Sarah Lopez from Colombia, and on the U.S. World Archery FIDA side, I mean, she just came in and started killing all of us. Like, she was this person, and we were all down here. And so over the years, everyone's now climbing up to catch her, kind of how I felt on, like, the field, Reading kind of style side. So there's always that person, and there's enough different venues within archery that you might excel a lot at one, maybe be in the middle at another. So the other thing, too, is we need to put the effort in. You can't just shoot one kind of archery and be good either. We're shooting field one weekend and then FIDA, and then we're shooting indoor, and then we're shooting FIDA field, and then we're going, there's so many different events that does take a lot more commitment with what we do and switching it up.
I've got to go back over to Tate now and show him some love. He was falling asleep there as you were talking. He was giving me the big yawn, so that was like the secret code signal to like ask me a question. So Tate, I mean, how does it feel to be overshadowed by your girlfriend so regularly?
I mean, she does good. I mean, I think it's fun because it keeps both of us on our toes as far as like in practice. It's never a dull moment. In practice, every arrow is a competition. Like we always joke back and forth, like, all right, this arrow's closest to center, like, oh, I whooped your butt today or whatever, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna beat you tomorrow type of thing. So there's a lot of bantering back and forth as far as like who's the better one when it comes to practicing or shooting. And every tournament everyone was like, oh, are you gonna get beat by her again this weekend? Because she did beat me like 4 indoor tournaments in a row this year.
He actually said to me, every time someone tells me I can't do something, I'm gonna prove them wrong, because he said directly, you will never, like, you might have beat me at some outdoor, but you will never beat me at an indoor event. And I was like, oh, really now? And then I beat him at the next 4 in a row.
You did beat every guy in the whole entire weekend.
Okay, still.
The problem with never, Tate, is it's a very, very long time. So
yeah,
you can hold on for a while, but sooner or later you get that one screw up and it's over.
Now and then give her some feel good. So
Okay.
I just got to let her win a few here and there, then I can go back to beating her.
Well, archery is interesting in that it is a sport where it does kind of equalize the playing field, doesn't it, between men and women? Because, you may have, a modestly lower draw weight, but really, for the most part, it's not like a basketball or a soccer or something like that where you simply have, men being generally a little bit stronger or faster. I mean, there's no reason that Paige, couldn't compete in the men's division. And actually, you guys probably talk about this a lot more. This is a thought that just popped into my mind. But, like, do you envision a day when, like, Paige is just going to be like, I'm just going to go in the open pro division. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm a man or a woman. Like, I'm going to shoot this.
We talk about it, and that's kind of been a hot topic in archery recently. They used to be men and women only, and now they did change the men's division to open, so anyone can shoot them. The issue is there are so many men. Now, here's the thing. I'm obviously a woman, so I don't want to sound not good in saying this, but, like, men and women aren't created equal. Like, people that say that, I disagree. We aren't. And so there's certain venues where I think it's easier for women to compete, indoor being one of those, because we don't have the elements. But just to have a brief summary, the biggest difference, in my personal opinion, between a woman and a man shooting, the man's strength and something with their muscles, how their body works, they aim so much better than we ever do. And like we were joking one day, we had both just shot a 328 X's, and I was telling him, man, I'm aiming everywhere. I don't know how I'm shooting that. So we put a laser on my bow, and we put a laser on his bow, and this is just a 20 yards. And my laser was doing this, and his was just sitting there. Yet we somehow ended up with the same score. So the women fight the sight picture a lot. We all kind of talk about that. But the reason being, the men do pull more weight, which the pulling the weight doesn't help, but the holding weight that you're holding at full draw will help you stabilize. they typically can shoot more than we can. The mass weight of your bow in windy conditions or in pressure situations, if you're nervous, holding weight helps with that, and the mass weight on your bow helps with that. So if they have a really like a heavy setup with a lot of weights on their stabilizers, their bow is going to move a lot less in that situation than ours. So I feel like we're on an even playing field other than those couple factors. It's just their strength with that extra weight at certain times can be beneficial to them, but otherwise, you're right, it's a pretty even sport.
Yeah, I would definitely say indoors is probably the best comparable for as far as going from like competition wise, men to women, like being able to compete.
Yeah.
Like she was saying, outdoors, like we do have a lot more benefits when it comes to outdoors. Like our draw length is longer. We can shoot a heavier arrow at a faster speed, so we don't get as much wind drift. We can aim steadier in the wind, typically, things like that. So that definitely plays a factor. But indoors, I mean, there's some women out there now, like she's one of them that can, like, I definitely wouldn't be my first choice to have to shoot against some of them head to head.
Yeah, I was going to say, you guys, you were saying that you're pretty competitive there during your practice sessions and stuff. I mean, do you guys, roughly beat each other about, half the time, or, she's obviously pretty competitive against you.
It's kind of just, it varies day to day. I mean,
he's better in practice for sure, which I've never practiced, so that's probably why.
So in other words, she just said that you're not good under pressure, but she is.
Yeah.
It makes me think of a scene from the Jordan thing that I showed you. There was Michael Jordan was walking through it was during the playoffs or something. He was walking through the hotel lobby, and they were like, "Hey, Mike, if there's 2 seconds on the clock, who's taking the shot?" And he looked over, and he got mad, and he was like, "What are you talking about? It's a stupid question. Me." That's what you're thinking, right, Paige? If there's one arrow, if you guys as a couple are being held at gunpoint and there's just one of you who gets to shoot, Paige is going to be like, "Honey, I have to shoot because, like, I know I can make this."
So in his...
he wants to kill me right now. Look at him. He's staring bullets through me.
Fun to end phone call.
No. When was it? October. We were hunting water buffalo in Australia, and I actually got charged and hit by the buffalo, and we were like tied up. It was this whole crazy thing, and he actually killed it under pressure, or I would have died. So.
Well, I got to hear more about. I got to hear this whole story now.
I was just gonna say, it sounds crazy dramatic, but it's literally true, and he did good. So I quit teasing him after that, because I'm like, okay, that was like actually life or death kind of thing, and you pulled it out.
We get environments.
Yeah, we were hunting up there with a friend. His name's Rowan, in the Northern Territories, and we'd been helicoptered out into the bush. We were like middle of nowhere. It was kind of a last day trip. We were just gonna go out by ourselves, actually, so we were alone. We flew out, they dropped us off, we were going to stay the night, they were going to pick us up the next evening. And we'd already hunted a few days out there with him, so I was like, I know, we're going to be fine, it's all good. He kind of said, he's like, I have a bad feeling, I don't want to go. And I was like, we're going. So we went and put on a bunch of stalks that day, and I had been standing behind a tree. There was some water buffalo there where a tree had fallen over, and they were kind of eating in it, but it was big, I couldn't see them. So I was about 30 yards in front of him, hiding behind a tree waiting for one to come out, and he was back videoing. And 20 minutes into it, the wind switches at my back, and I hear him run. And there was a little creek bed, so I was going to run over there and take a shot down in the creek. Well, I left the tree, and he stopped the camera because we thought they'd run. I walked about 6 yards in front of the tree, and they ran out like 15 yards in front of me. And I went, awesome, like hadn't been charged yet that week. I figured it'd be fine. Go to draw back, and the front one just like turns and starts coming straight at me. And Rowan had said, if they're going to charge you, it'll probably be after you shoot them. There'll be one buffalo. They'll make one hard pass at you and keep going. Just jump out, like stay behind the tree, jump the other way. You'll be fine. Yeah, he lied. It didn't work like that. So I hit the tree, and I look to the left, and there's 2 buffalo charging on this side. I look to the right. There's one charging this way, and this one was in front. And so I was screaming. I don't even know what I was screaming, a lot of things, but help, help, help was definitely one of them. And we didn't have any guns. We only had bows. And so the buffalo, I thought, was going to run by. Well, her horn hit the tree and spun her. And so I actually had on a bino harness and her horn went between the bino harness and my body and ripped my bino harness off, but didn't stick me. And her head was like right here against my body, and I took my bow, it was in my left hand, arrow still knocked, and just shoved it straight against her like forehead where her horns were. And I just locked that arm. I'm barefoot because I was stalking, and it pushed me twice around the tree, just tied up, stuff going everywhere. And then I finally was like, I got to get out of this, and ran kind of into the open. There were no trees. It was just bushes. I would have got pummeled. And he had kind of run down and yelled as I was running, and she saw him and stopped. And then I'll let me go.
I ran down because like as soon as the buffalo like I thought went down into the creek bottom, I turned the camera off because like normally when they winded us, they were done. They ran forever. So I just set the camera down, set it on the ground. And I'm just sitting there like thinking like, okay, this is a waste of time. Like she's just gonna go over there. They're gonna be gone. We're gonna go on to the next herd and try to find another one. Well, I'm just sitting there like messing around with the camera, like putting it back in my backpack. And then she starts screaming, and I look up, and the buffalo are running at her. I'm like, uh-oh. So I jump up, grab my bow, and I'm like running. She's probably like 100 yards in front of me. So I'm like trying to run up there and knock my arrow and get my release hooked up. By that time, she'd been like pushed around the tree twice, and then she'd got an opening.
He thought I got stuck. When it hit me, he thought I screamed apparently bloody murder. I don't even know. Yeah. And so he thought I got like stuck by it when the horn went past my body. Anyway. So
then I took off running up there, and I'm like knocking my arrow, and then I look, and she's running towards me, like to my running like angled to my right, and the buffalo's like right on her heels, just chasing her like head down. I'm like, so I start like screaming at this buffalo, like holding onto my bow and like waving my arms at this buffalo, and it stops and then looks at me and then kind of like turns its butt towards me a little bit and then starts running like quartering to me a little bit, and I draw back and I shot it as it was running by me. And it ran like 50 yards, 50, 60 yards and tipped it over dead. I shot it like I got like on the run, double lunged him, and she just ran over and
I was still running.
I was like,
I hadn't even looked back yet.
She comes walking back over and she's like, "Whew, that was cool. Where's the buffalo at?" And I'm like,
he was literally just shaking. He couldn't even talk.
Because I didn't know like at that point like
he was looking at me.
And I'm just like looking around and she's like nowhere to be seen. And I'm like, okay, like where'd you go now? And then she comes walking up behind me from behind the trees, and I'm like expecting there to be like a big hole in her side or something, or like blood everywhere because she got stabbed or something, you know. And she's like completely unscathed, and she's just like, yeah, that wasn't even that bad. And I'm like,
oh no, I didn't say that. I was just like, oh man, I can't believe that just happened. That was crazy. And he was just staring at me, and I was like, what? And he's like looking. I'm like, no, I didn't get stuck. It went right. And I was like, actually, it ripped my bino harness off. And he was like, no way. And then it took like 30 minutes because I tried to do a little video right after to get him to talk. And he didn't eat for 2 days. Like, he was sick. He was stressed. Like, he was the whitest pale color for the next 12 hours I've ever seen a human look. And I was fine. But it messed him up.
Just like, yep.
You were very, very lucky. I mean, it's one of those things where, you know, you were fine. So, you know, you were just like, okay, there was no problem. But, like, he was realizing, you know, a couple inches on that horn, and you could have been completely gored open. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It would have taken them over an hour by helicopter to come get us, and at least over an hour to get us back out. And we would have had to get to the pickup spot. So, yeah, I mean, if it had stuck me, I probably would have died. I mean, for sure. Like, it was close. That was the closest call hunting I've had, for sure. I mean, not many people can say they got hit by a buffalo and lived through it. Like, it was insane. And I was still, like, I'm not going to lie, it made me jumpy after, but I wanted to keep hunting. And he was like, we're done. I'm calling the heli back. We're getting out of here. And I was like, no. And he's like, I'm done. And so we called them. They couldn't get in till the morning. So we stayed out there. And there was one other buffalo I saw, and I tried to
put a stop on it. They were going to come back and get us anyways the next morning. They were originally going to come back and get us that night. But a big storm came in, so they had to come get us in the morning regardless. And I'm just like, well, okay, because I'm over this.
Yeah, he's like, I'm done. And then we got back, and I'm like, man, I'm starving, you know. And still, that whole next day, like, he didn't eat anything. And he was just off. Like, and he said, too, it's harder to stand back and watch that happen, knowing there's not really anything you can do. Where at least I was the person it was happening to, so it was all just kind of this quick blur of crazy. And then I'm like, dang, that was nuts. But it happened to me. And I think had it been reversed and I had to be the one sitting there watching that happen, it probably would have messed me up more than if it happened to me, I think. Yeah, it was crazy.
We're out there hunting these animals that are, I mean, the Asiatic water buffaloes are just humongous.
They're giant.
They're gigantic. And we didn't have a gun, nothing. It was like, we're just out there with stick and strings. Like, we're throwing rocks at giants here.
The funny part is then we look back and we're like, there were buffalo that day, even earlier, that I belly crawled up to in some bushes. And I was
right behind each other.
I mean, 15 yards, 10, 15 yards from them, just laying there going, man, I hope they don't win me or whatever. But I was waiting for them to move out of the bushes to shoot. And I look back and I'm like, there was no tree, there was no cover, like, other than some little bushes. They just run that right over. So I kind of looked back and was like, well, I was probably a little sketchy in the way that I was hunting. I was not very, none of us were very, careful.
Like the week before when we were out there the first time, we were tracking this group of buffalo, and they all kind of just like grouped up, and we just sat down with the guy we were with, and we sat down like 30 yards from like 50 or 60 of them.
I have it all on video. It's pretty cool.
And there's trees the size of pop cans, maybe, just like kind of scattered out there. Like there's
we sat down at 8.
We were just sitting down eating lunch, like 50 yards from them, and they were sitting over there snorting at us and blowing, and like all like in there, kind of like it almost looked like they got like a defensive circle, and they're all just kind of huddled up, like staring at us
and looking at us and stuff. And we were like, should we be worried? He's like, nah.
Oh no, we're good. We're good.
And he was actually voted bow hunter of the year in Australia, so he's like kind of a big deal too. And he's like, dude, I've hunted these things for so many years, and I've never had that happen. He goes, I think the scrub bulls down here are meaner than the buffalo. And he goes, I've shot a few scrub bulls and had them make a pass at me, but they just, run by and that's it. And so even we got back and he was like, what happened? Because I had a Garmin and I sent like, charged by buffalo, hit, fine, Tate needs to leave or whatever. And they're like, wait, what? Like, that's never happened. It was crazy.
So is that the only, hang on. Yeah, is that the only time you ever almost died bow hunting, or you have some other harrowing stories?
That was the worst. That's
I've
definitely
never had
the worst.
stories like that before.
That is, I would say that's something that's cool to have done, but not something you want to repeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, looking back on it now, like, kind of a cool experience, but it's not something I'm going to go do every weekend.
No, for sure.
Hunting every weekend.
Yeah, it was nuts. That was a hard hunt. It was so hot. It was like their record high days. I'm terrified of water, and we ended up just jumping in the river and swimming with crocodiles. Like, we didn't care. And like, there were crocs, you could see them. Like, there were ones we chased off the bank, and it was just so miserably hot that like to even remotely try to escape the heat. And you had to get in. And Rowan had said, you'll be swimming in that by the end of the trip, or the end of the day. He even said, I'm like, you will never get me in that water. Halfway into the day, and we were both just like, get away, crocs, we're coming in. Like, we were dying. It was intense. That was a cool bow hunt for sure.
That is a cool story. I've never heard a story quite like that one. That I don't even think like I've ever hunted anything really dangerous like that. I mean, I've hunted bears, but they don't really scare me that much. I mean, not grizzly bears, but black bears, and like I guess a rutting bull elk could really mess you up, Tate. But I never think about. I never think about the fact that a bull elk is going to possibly like stick me when you're close to him or something. They could.
No, like, I even thought about. I mean, I kind of just looked at them as like cattle. Like, I spent a lot of time around cattle when I was younger, and it's like never really even like they don't make me nervous or anything like that. It's like I really was never like I was a little cautious on sneaking up on them just because like when they looked at you, like if they winded you or like spotted you moving or whatever, when the way they like tip their head back and look at you, like the guy we were hunting with said, when they look at you, like a little big bull will look at you. They look at you like you owe them money.
Yeah.
And like he wasn't wrong. Like when they sit there and they give you that stare, they're like looking right over their nose at you. It looks like they're wanting money from you.
Yeah.
Like they give you a pretty mean look, but they really didn't seem that scary. And then like you kind of lose a little bit of like that sense of respect for them. You kind of like push it until you push too much, and then like obviously they
I
pushed back a little
I
bit.
pushed worse in other stocks for sure. And like he could shoot farther because again, poundage, draw weight, draw length, all that good stuff. So some of his ones he shot were like
I shot one at
60 yards, 50 yards. I was shooting mine at like 25, 30. So I was getting a lot closer in my stocks just because I knew like I didn't have the poundage and the arrow weight and everything that he did. And so again, looking back, I'm like, yeah, that could have happened at any time. You just never think anything like that's going to happen to you. And I've heard people tell stories like that before, you know, where accidents happen or things happen. And it's really easy to just think like, oh, yeah, it's never happened to this guy. It's probably never going to happen to me. So it was an eye-opener for sure. Like, it made me respect the woods or, like, hunting, you know, whatever we're doing a whole lot more than I did before.
Yeah. So it's going to completely shift gears here and ask you a different line of questioning. How did you guys meet?
Tournament archery.
Yeah, tournaments.
You had to have been around each other for a while then before you ever, like, dated.
Yeah, well, I used to be his wingman, wingwoman, before we dated.
What was it? What does that mean? You would have to. You would have to go out with his friends?
No, I would go with him and try and find him some ladies. Like I was his wingman, you know, when you go to the bar, you take a
But
wingman.
you couldn't find any other woman willing to go out with him, so you finally decided to do it yourself?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, we just were friends for a long time, and then finally we were like, everyone in archery kept harassing us that we were going to end up dating. We were like, no, you know, we're just friends. And then they said it long enough that it finally set in, and we were like, well, if everyone else thinks that, I guess maybe there's something to it. So we kind of just talked about it one day, and we're like, you know, like, we know we're friends, we know we get along, yeah, let's give this thing a try.
Well, how long has it been now?
2 years?
2 years.
All right, well, I guess it's working out, huh?
So
good,
far.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I always say.
Well, see it. You've survived the a worldwide pandemic now at this point, so you have that going for you. Now, what about the sponsorships? Obviously, you shoot for Hoyt Tate, and Paige shoots Bowtech. I'm sure there must be a little bit of friendly rivalry there.
Oh yeah, we always throw our 2 cents in on there on what's the better bow or who makes the better arrows, because she shoots for Black Eagle and I shoot for Easton. So there's a little bit of friendly rivalry there.
For sure.
Now, do you ever pick up each other's equipment and think to yourself, man, this is pretty nice?
I mean, it's hard, we kind of can't.
Yeah,
like,
she can't pull my bows back.
Gotcha.
Her bows don't even feel like a bow because they're like 22 inches draw length.
You're so mean. No, they're not. I shoot 27 and a half inch draw. Mine's not that short for a lady, but
hey,
no.
I just I was talking to Cabe Johnson from Spot Hog earlier today, and he shoots a 27 inch draw length, so he has a shorter draw length than Paige does.
Yeah, for sure. I shot with Cabe growing up my whole life. Because he's just up in Oregon, so we shot all the same like local tournaments together. So he's been a good friend. But Tate and I do have some of the same companies, like sights, scopes, lenses, like different things like that. So it is nice on the stuff that we shoot the same because it's easier to like get advice or like commingle ideas and stuff when we're setting
both have
things
the same
up.
stuff, and we're like, oh, I want to try this. Well, I already have this set up, so here, just
Yeah,
try
let
this
me borrow
real
that
quick.
or
So
steal this. So
it definitely makes that part easy as far as playing around with different setups.
Yeah.
But
Well, I'll tell you one thing that is nice about being the editor here is, you know, you guys as pro shooters, obviously it would be unusual for you to shoot multiple brands of bows because you typically will have one sponsor. And if you have a TV show, it's kind of the same thing because you probably have one sponsor. Nice thing being at the magazine is, you know, we cover all the products that are out there, and I get to shoot a variety of equipment every year. And I will say that actually going back, I think it's going to be 13 years, Paige, that I've been here as the editor at Bowhunting this fall. And one of the very first bows that I got when I started was a Bowtech Admiral. And I loved that bow, and that was back in the early days when Bowtech really kind of came out with that center pivot riser design. And I have found during my entire time in the industry that is just such a forgiving platform. And I hunted a lot, especially in those first 4 or 5 years. I just killed a lot of things with Bowtech bows, and I continue to be a fan of those. They have developed a lot of things that have become standard in the industry. Whether it's that flexing cable guard that everyone has kind of variated off of now. The deadlock system that they've come out with more recently. I mean, that is a really great way to paper tune your bow without having to mess around with twisting cables or doing things to your cams. So, I mean, they've got some great stuff. And don't worry, Tate, I love Hoyts too. We'll come around and give them some love in a minute. But Paige, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about, obviously your sponsor, but tell me about the bow that you're shooting, for competition, but also for hunting, and what it is about Bowtech that you really enjoy about their bows.
So I said I've been doing this a long time. I just want to start by saying I actually grew up shooting Hoyt and then switched from Hoyt to PSE. I was a PSE girl for 6 years, and then now I switched to Bowtech. This is my 4th year with Bowtech. So I've actually been able over the course of my career to shoot a few different companies, and I truly love the Bowtechs. I love where I am. I mean, I will say honestly that about 4 or 5 years ago, in the target side at least, Bowtech was a little behind the other companies. And what was really interesting is they were like, we want to make a push. We want to make a difference on the target side. We're going to do this thing. So they got a couple staff shooters, myself being one of them, and they were like, let's get together and let's do this. And so what was crazy is I looked at companies that have been in the industry. I'm just going to throw Hoyt under the bus because I always do since it's him. And they've had basically the same products, the same cams, the same everything for years. Not much has changed. And in such a short amount of time, Bowtech developed some great new bows, but also some innovative new technology within the whole industry. So that's been a really neat thing for me to be a part of and, get to see happen and grow with the company even. So I've been so appreciative that I'm there. And then I do want to say something that's different. Being a woman, they are so supportive of the women. They have their whole, a whole separate push of Bowtech Archery Women. They're super receptive to what I have to say. There were some things, for example, something simple, like the sight holes on the side of the bow where you mount your sight mounting bracket. There was one high set of holes. And I'm like, hey, shorter draw length, lighter poundage, women need a lower set of holes so they can get more yardage. And they're like, done. Next run of bows that they're going through from there on out, if you notice, they all now have multiple mounting holes. Simple little things like that, but they were so willing to learn and become better. That it's been awesome. So now I shoot the Revolt X for hunting. I love it. I just now only really got to hunt with it during turkey season, but it's been really good so far. I will say one huge benefit to shooting Bowtech, the cam systems don't feel as heavy as the poundage that you're pulling. So I used to be able to only shoot about 50 pounds on previous companies, and even on their previous bows, like the Bowtech Rain was the first one I shot. From the Realm series and now the Revolts, I can shoot 60 pounds, and it feels like I'm pulling 50. And, to make a 10-pound jump in draw weight is huge, and I did it overnight. And so they're really making that comfortable, which is good. For targets, I'm shooting now the Reckoning 38, which also has the deadlock system. That's a super beneficial system for target, obviously, as well. We're switching constantly between, indoor, outdoor, and all these different arrows. And so it gives you the ability to really, quickly adjust stuff and change stuff. So that's been really helpful. But yeah, I mean, I really love being there. I know there's a lot, people say that, but I'm saying that truly because I mean it.
Yeah, I would agree with you as far as the speed. I actually haven't set my Revolt up yet. It's been hanging on a hook here for too long, waiting for me. But last year, I actually shot the Realm SS. So they had the SR6, which was the faster one. The SS has a little bit 7-inch brace height. And I usually will gravitate towards the slower bow if you make a bow with 2 models. But even, slower, I think 343 might have been the IBO on that one. I'm not sure. Because the SR6 was 350, 355. I don't
340.
remember.
So there's a 10 feet per second difference between the two, but
I mean, they're fast. They're really fast compared to how they feel. Okay, Enough about Bowtech, though. We can't give them all the love, Tate. Come on. I'll tell you a bow that I have set up already this year, and that is the new Carbon RX4. And, you know, I was talking to Jeremy Eldridge over at Hoyt the other day. I just called him because this is going back maybe a couple of months, where I had set that bow up, and, you know, I had shot, you know, going back to like the Carbon Element and the Carbon Spider, and I mean, I set this RX4 up, and I went out, and the first time I was shooting this, I mean, I was just pounding them in there, and like I called Jeremy, and I was like, I think this is the best bow that you guys have ever made, you know? And he's like, well, I'm not going to argue with you, but now that's a hunting bow, obviously, but I'm sure you have one, Tate. I mean, that bow is just, there's some bows that when they're in your hand, you know, it's like every bow nowadays, if you make a good shot, the arrow's going to go where you want. But then you have those bows where you feel like, I don't think I like made that shot very well. And then you like look at the target and you're like, it's right there. And you're like, those are the kind of bows that I like. And that's one of those bows.
Yeah. So I have an RX4. I just haven't set it up yet.
So you're like me with my Revolt.
Yeah, I just RX3 from last year that's all set up. I can pick it up. Broadhead still hit the middle. Field tip still hit the middle. It's like, really don't want to set another one up and go through all that work because I have one that works. But just playing around with them. I mean, I haven't personally shot mine yet. Like, I think I even still have it in the box, like unopened. But
it's not on eBay, is it?
Mm-hmm.
I said it's not on eBay, is it?
No, not yet. No, but I've shot a bunch of the RX4s. Like I shot the Axios, the Ultra, the Turbo. I shot all of them at my parents' shop. Messed around with them right when they first came out, and like all the bows were great this year. I really like the way the cams feel. Like the grips are good still. Like that's one nice thing. Like probably my favorite thing about a Hoyt is being from the shop. Like I've set every single bow up. I've shot every single bow, selling them to people, playing with them when they come in just to see, because out of curiosity, like, well, what's this one feel like? Or what did they do this year? They said this is different. So like, see what it feels like type of thing. And the one thing that's always like, kind of like, always felt like home to me was the Hoyt grips. It's just, that's probably like my favorite feature on the Hoyts is when I put my hand in that grip, it just feels like a glove.
Well, it's the only thing you've ever shot, so you don't know when you.
Well, playing with other bows too, it's like they just don't feel. I don't think they feel as good as the Hoyts, but they all shoot. They all shoot good. The Invicta this year was amazing. Like I ended up getting one of those bows last year, a couple months early before they launched them to play around with it, and it was so hard to keep quiet with it because it was like I just wanted to take it out. I wanted to shoot it. I wanted to show people. I'm like, dude, this bow is the cat's meow. Like it is hands down the best harder bow I've ever shot. I mean, I still feel that. Like definitely this time in quarantine has showed that. Like I haven't been shooting quite as much as we probably should have been, just because like the lack of motivation is definitely real when we go from every single weekend kind of keeping us on our toes, shooting in this state, this country, being on airplanes, like going all over the world, to just nothing. It's like I haven't felt it. I haven't had a break like this in 5 years. So it's like it's kind of been a nice reprieve, but I walk out the other day, pick the bow up, and it's like I never even quit shooting. Like the bow just pounds. It takes zero effort. Like that was one thing I told Paige when I first got the bow. She was like, well, how do you like it? Like what is it? I'm like, well, what I can tell you is it literally shoots itself. Like I don't have to put any effort into shooting the bow. It just goes where it wants to. And it shows like how good, how much farther they've come. Granted, yeah, everybody says their models don't look that much different, or they're using the same cams, or everything's the same on the bow. Like,
come on, hang on. Let me tell you, Tate, this is how you respond to Paige when she gives you that nasty dig, because don't think that I didn't pick up on that, but I didn't want to interrupt Paige right then. But you just say, when you've been winning tournaments for 50 years and you're not the new kid Johnny come lately on the block, maybe you don't have to reinvent everything every 5 years because it's already working. See, that's all you got to say.
That's what I was telling people to do crap out. I'm like, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So, but Invicta they definitely changed their platform on the Invicta a ton compared to previous models. A couple of the new things, like they did make the riser longer and then put a little bit shorter limbs on them, made them a little bit more parallel.
It's a better feeling platform that way. It's similar to the Reckonings.
Yeah, the bow doesn't jump out of your hand quite as much just because
did you catch that? She just kind of said it's a better bow because it's a little bit more like the Bowtechs now.
Yeah, she always tries to throw jabs in like that. I told you. I've kind of learned to ignore them. This guy, it's like blabber over here and comes out what over here, like. But yeah, a lot of the things they've done on that bow this year I think is really, really good ideas. I mean, they added that stealth shot to it that comes standard on all the bows now. You can shoot it with or without it. I've played with it, without it. I personally like shooting mine with it. You can take it in and out. It doesn't make a difference on impact, which is one cool thing.
You're talking about it. You're talking about a string stop there.
Yeah, they have a string stop now right below the handle, right above the top.
Are you talking about your target bow? Because they've been on the hunting bows.
Yeah, they recently incorporated them this year. They had a secondary piece you could buy for the Prevails. That was a separate piece you mounted onto the back of the riser. Well, on the Invicta now it comes stock with just a piece of carbon, like a cable rod in the back of the riser string stop. So they have that. They have a modular grip plate system this year. That's cool. That's super cool because, I mean, you come stock with the bow, all 4 grip angles, plus each grip angle has another 1/8 inch adjustment that you can do, so you can make the bow an 1/8 of an inch shorter without changing anything on the bow. So you're not changing your cam rotation, your timing, your let off or holding weight by playing with the string at all. You just pop that grip plate in. You can kind of get in the middle of the module. Makes it really, really customizable.
That part is cool. I'll give you that.
Yeah. And then with that new limb angle they did on it, they don't even sound like a target bow anymore. Like generally, like that was another thing that everybody always complained about the Hoyts is when you shot it. If someone was down the line from you,
it sounded like you were standing next to a recurve.
Like you knew when someone was shooting a Hoyt.
They were loud.
But I guess if they're good, it doesn't matter. It's like a good race car.
I was going to say, it doesn't matter how loud a target bow is, does it?
No, exactly. And I'm like, why do you care? You're shooting paper. It don't matter. But
they had a lot of shock, and I will say, like, just watching them shoot, the Invicta is definitely more dead in your hands. So.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, and it comes through even though you guys like to, bicker a little bit. The point is, right, Bowtech does this, Hoyt does that. As you guys were talking about some of the new things, I was even starting to think about PSE a little bit. Of course, you guys know, with Dudley moving over there this year, and even just some of the little things, I was thinking about the change that he made to the little plastic insert at the yoke and how he put a hole in that to anchor your cable for your drop-away rest. And again, coming back to my role here at the magazine, I appreciate how all the manufacturers are constantly pushing because, they say imitation is the highest form of flattery. And it's like if anyone comes up with a good idea, somebody else is either going to steal it or figure out a way to do the same thing a little bit differently, right? And so I love to see how every year different manufacturers, I come back to Prime a lot too. Like I love that whole platform that Prime did with the parallel cams and the things that does. The Synergy riser design. And I'll tell you what, they've had copycats. Look at the way that Hoyt redistributed weight lower and Matthews redistributed weight differently because Prime really hit on something with that bow balance. And you talked about the laser pointers, and when Prime first came out with that Synergy riser and they're like, put that laser pointer on. Now you hold the Synergy and watch your laser. Now you like pick up brand X, brand Y, and the same thing, and you see that it's like, okay, and now everyone else has come along. And as a shooter, it really doesn't matter what brand of bow you shoot, because ultimately, there's a lot of good bows out there, and everybody, should pick the one that they think is best for them. But we're all benefiting by better equipment all the time.
So we give each other a lot of smack talking, obviously, but like if people ever ask us about buying bows or whatever, like the thing that I always go to is all the companies nowadays truly do make a good product, but there are little differences within the products that may work better for you or not. And so my whole thing is you need to test them and figure out what it is that's going to work best for you. Like for example, the Hoyt cam is great for the people that shoot it. I have a bum shoulder, so like the back wall on that arcs real hard right before you drop over, and that really hurt my shoulder. When I switched from Hoyt to PSE, the PSE loads up more poundage up front and a lot less in the back, and that was better for my body. So within each company that I've shot, just to throw those out there since I'm not shooting those currently, there was always little things that it's like, you know what, this is really good for me, and this is, or maybe this part isn't, right? Like there's always good and bad. And so I truly think, like, you can't go wrong with any of the companies that are out there right now. It's just trying to find the one that is going to be the most forgiving for you, your body, and your shot style.
Why don't we wrap it up with this? Because believe it or not, we're just hitting an hour. And I just feel like we really didn't get into, like, I mean, I went into this thinking I was going to get into some really specific shooting questions and talking about mechanics and everything. And I mean, we've covered a lot of ground, but I think I could talk to you guys for 2 more hours, but none of us have the time. Let's just do this. You mentioned, Tate, you said you haven't had a break like this for 5 years. Paige, you probably haven't had a break like this for 15 years, or 12 years or whatever it is. And so the point is, and this is something that we can all relate to, right? It doesn't matter if you're a professional archer, a magazine editor, a school teacher, a student, whatever. Everyone's life basically came to a screeching halt this spring, and who knows when it's going to be back to quote unquote normal or the new normal. I hate that term, whatever it's going to be. But what have you guys been doing with yourselves here for the last 3 months? And is there anything about this, like, not shooting archery every week that you kind of actually like? And are you thinking, like, man, maybe we'll do a little bit more of this goofing off after things get back to normal?
I kind of enjoy it. I mean, I always feel it's good to take a break. Like, that's why I've always, like, hunted when we get that, not just because it's hunting season, but when I normally take that 2 months off for hunting season, it's like you just kind of get to just disconnect from the high pressure situations you're in week in and week out, traveling tournaments. You're not living out of a suitcase in a hotel room, sitting in airplanes. So it's kind of nice just to like actually feel what your own bed feels like for more than 24 hours when you're back and forth. I mean, we've been spending a lot of time at the lake, fishing, water skiing, things like that with friends. So that part's been really cool because it's been something I really haven't got to do in the last couple of years. So I'm, in a sense, I'm liking that aspect. But now as we're getting further along into the quarantine, or if you want to call it quarantine or anymore, but the lockdown basically, because nothing's really happening, I'm starting to kind of get that itch again where it's like, all right, things need to start opening up because like I'm getting that drive to like, I want to go compete again. I want to go and just not only compete, but see the people like we call them our archery family, because basically we see those people on a weekly basis and more than our actual family normally. So in a sense, it's kind of more of like we want like kind of that reunion with our friends that we normally are with, but it's also been nice to kind of get a break from the same people week in and week out. So, I mean, it's been bad and good, but I've enjoyed it so far.
I think I had a pretty crazy indoor season this year where we both did. Like, we traveled more than ever.
More than normal.
Yeah, a lot. And so, I mean, we hadn't had a break. Basically, during October, that break you normally get, we were down hunting buffalo, and then we flew right into indoor season. So it was insane. And I kept saying, like, man, it's already indoor. again, it's still indoor, and I'm kind of burnt out a little. Like, I'm just like, man, I could use a week or two home. I didn't mean months, but, you know, I said I jinxed me by myself by saying that. But I think one thing that's good is I had done this so long, so consistently, that I don't want to say you take it for granted, but you don't realize what you really love about it and appreciate it so much. So now that I've been basically forced to stop, like he said, all my friends are there. Like, I consider them to be more family than friends. I feel like half the time we all fight like brothers and sisters, and we're together so much that it really showed me, like, yes, I love this. Like, it just gave me the ability to step back and look at that situation and go, you know what? I really love what I'm doing. I appreciate it. I'm never going to complain again about being too busy shooting or whatever. Like, it just gave me a new appreciation that I maybe had not, I hadn't started to lose it, but you know what I mean? You just kind of overlook that stuff when you've been going for so long. So in some ways, like you said, it's been good, but I'm ready to go back.
Yeah, I think we all are. And, you know, I interviewed Ralph Ciancerulo a couple months ago when this was all just getting started. And we were talking about all this. And, you know, Ralph and I were talking, and we just both felt the same way, you know. Like, this fall, when you finally, like, are stalking that bull or you're sitting in that tree stand, and, like, literally, I can get choked up just thinking about it, because this has been hard. Like, and if you have kids, like, it's been hard for my kids. It's been hard for me to see what they've missed. It's been hard, you know, to just even be all cooped up in the house wanting to kill each other some days, and like wondering, you know, are they going to have school to go back to in the fall, and like, you know, seeing their sports seasons get and all this stuff. And it's like, you know what, when I get in that tree and the sun comes up on opening day, like, I am going to shed a tear, because we need it, like, more now that we have ever needed this before, because, like, this is for real. Like, and you look at what's going on in our country, like, we need like, you know, archery, if that's your thing, if bow hunting is your thing, you know, it's more important now than it ever was.
Yeah, I think people have too much time on their hands. We need to get back to being a little busier than we are right now, but trust me,
get back to normal.
Yeah, we can't wait. We can't wait. And honestly, what's weird though, our tournament season is probably going to start to kick off right about the same time hunting season does. So we're going to go from nothing to everything that we all at once.
Tate's not going to compete this year because he said he was going to come over and guide me over there with my 900-20 tag. So,
I think I'll try if I have to do that, because I won't be able to hunt.
Well, listen, guys, be well, steer clear of water buffalo, and I wish you both the best of success whenever you do finally get back to shooting. Hopefully we see a lot of Morgans and Pearces at the top of the leaderboards here in the competitions this year. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening to Petersen's Bowhunting Radio, the official podcast of hardcore bow hunters. Pick up the latest issue of Petersen's Bowhunting on your local newsstand, or check us out on the web at bowhuntingmag.com.